And so, well, thanks for coming, Amanda.
Of course. I'm so happy to be here.
Episode 60. Holy shit balls.
Episode 60.
This is interesting for me with you.
Yeah?
Because I listen to your stuff.
Yes.
And you've been through a lot. Right?
God.
A lot.
So much.
But also now have a pretty successful podcast from it. And I love talking to entrepreneurs because I love to know like how your brain works.
Ooh.
And how it ticks.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like for me, the ultimate podcast episode is being able to crawl into a guest's brain and just be like, talk to me about this and about this. And
it's a scary place in there.
hey, I'm well medicated. It's fine. I got it. That and gummies are at home. Yeah. It's fine. Talk to me about, I know why you did the podcast, but I want to talk mechanics at first because there's people that are going to watch this and that they're thinking to start their own podcast.
Yes.
You do all your own stuff.
I do.
Right?
Yes.
Walk me through that process, what platforms you like to use.
Okay.
Which ones maybe you've done, you're like, and now I'm with this one. And as much as you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah, of course.
The thing I've learned is most people that watch this are going to start their own podcast, do 1 or 2 episodes and bounce because they want to put the work in.
Yeah. So when I first started out, I have a best friend that is in music. Her husband was her producer. So they were like, we love you. We want to help you. We have a studio in their home in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. So I would drive up and do the episodes. Her husband would do the mastering, the editing, everything. We would kind of sit there and, just like smoke some weed and add some sound effects. And it was fun. But I got to see on a big screen, like how he did it. That was my lesson. That was it. And so they kind of had to bounce because, it got to be season for the lake. And I was like, shit, I have to do this by myself now. And after episode 3 with them, everyone was so fucking invested that I was getting messages like every week, like, when's episode 4? And I felt the pressure, not just to get something out, but to learn it and put it out, I guess, like, comparable to what my friends did because it was so like high quality. I started using, I had to buy an audio interface, which I didn't even know what that was. I had to buy a condenser microphone, headphones. Luckily for me, like my audio interface, I think it's Sterling. So as the microphone came with Bitwig Studios. So I've been using that and I have not veered from that. I learned it. I know it in and out, and I just don't want to learn anything else, and it works.
When, if ever, will you get to a point where you're like, I'm going to have somebody else take care of this for me?
When I start making money. The only reason that I'm doing it really myself now and everything else is because, with the whole story and the whole situation, I was completely drained and wiped clean of every dollar penny that I ever had. So I have to do it this way. I would love for someone else to do it. I'm a little bit of a control freak, so they would have to be a very good listener, but I have to do it this way right now.
When you're ready, let me know. I'll introduce you to my team.
Yeah.
And you could use them. It is something that you've made it as a podcaster when people from India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka are sliding into your DMs and it says in their headline, I'm Sam Sandeep, I'm a video editor.
Yeah.
When you start getting a lot of those,
I've gotten a lot of those actually. I don't know what's real, what's
get rid
not
of all
real.
Of them.
I'm like, no.
I would never give anybody it's called offshore. Nothing against those people, but it's against those people that I want somebody who's in the United States.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
I want 100%. Someone that that's in a relatively similar time zone as me, that we have conversations and be on a group text. And so if I'm texting you, you can get back to me at an appropriate time about thoughts, and because it moves so fast.
Yeah.
And you might have a thought about an edit that to get back to them to go, hey, don't do this again, or don't put in your own music because we get flagged for copyright stuff.
Yes.
From YouTube and from Meta.
Yes.
Or TikTok. And so it's just stuff like that.
Well, I also think too, I had a situation because I started implementing video with the interview of the other women, the other victims. And that was like cranking up the volume like 200x, because now it wasn't just me doing all the audio editing. Now I have to like make sure that the mouth is synced up with the audio. So I use Riverside for that. and it works 50% of the time. It should theoretically, for what I pay for it, should work, and it should come out and it should chop it up into reels, and I should be able to post directly from the interface. No. So then I had to purchase Adobe, the full suite, and export each of the video and audio files separately and, do, I don't even know, what is it? Premiere Pro. I had to teach myself Premiere Pro, which I'm pretty positive there's college courses on Adobe. So the fact that I taught myself that, and it's still I'm in progress with it, but it's so fucking time consuming. So one of my most recent episodes, I sent over to a friend that was like, hey, you're having audio issues, I can take care of it real fast. That sounds great for free. Okay, yeah. I get it back. And because it's my baby, right? I'm going to watch all of it. But if I tell you that right here, the sound and audio are off, and right here, this person's only going to look at right here and right here. Well, when you move that around, everything in the middle gets fucked up. And that's what happened. And so then I kind of depended on that, which I shouldn't have done. And now I'm behind a week on releasing that one. So again, I do everything myself because I know that I do it right.
Do you love it?
I do. I really do love it.
You've been bitten by the podcast bug?
I never knew that. I guess I knew I had a gift for gab, but everyone always talks about my dictation and my storytelling ability. I was with a girl yesterday at Red Rock, and she was like, I listened to 3 episodes last night, and I felt like I was you. You just put the listener into your body and you describe everything around you, how you felt, how, what you were thinking. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'm just talking.
You are someone that, and this is unfettered, I'm not blowing smoke up your fucking skirt, I listened to 3 episodes last night with my girlfriend, and it is a Herculean effort to do this alone.
Yeah.
I have yet to do it, and I think I'm pretty good at this.
Yeah.
I have yet to sit and talk to a camera for an hour and a half, and you've got a couple episodes there at the 129-ish mark. It's just you.
Yeah.
And that I'm like, whoa. You've got a lot to unpack, a lot going on psychologically that happened to you.
Yeah.
That you are, I think it's cathartic for you.
Totally.
Right? To talk about it.
Absolutely.
And there's some stuff you share. There's might be a little bit stuff you pull back just because of whatever.
Not really.
So you're 100%?
100%. That actually was the cathartic piece for me, because throughout this whole entire, I'm going to call it a process, but experience, I held a lot of shame for the things that I allowed in that relationship and the things that I supported that did not line up with who I was and my values. And every time I would tell this story outside of the podcast, before the podcast, I would leave those things out. And they just fucking ate at me in my soul. And I'm like, I'm being disingenuous. I need to just share all of that stuff, no matter how bad it makes me look, because then I'll get it out of my fucking soul. And I did. And the weight that was lifted off of my shoulders from sharing that, it's almost like the embarrassment, the gut, when it hurts in your stomach, that part, you got to share it. You have to.
When did you get to a point where you can give yourself grace from your past learning experiences? They're not mistakes. They're times that you learn. But when did you get to the point, if you have, where you can now give yourself grace?
I definitely have gotten there. I don't know if I can pinpoint an exact time. I would say that it was probably around episode 6 or 7 when I really started to kind of release all of the shame pieces. And I have been going to therapy for 11 years. My therapist, my mother, everyone in my family, my friends, they were like, don't do this. You're going to regret it. But something inside of me, I just knew that I had to. And I remember after episode 5, 6, 7, whatever it was, my mom and my therapist being like, I'm so proud you did this. And I'm like, oh, wow. Because it's two-pronged, right? It's I feel better, which is fantastic. But then I also know that I can trust my own intuition on what is good for me. Because for the past 2-3 years, no fucking clue. I felt that like this person was my soulmate. Wow, actually, you're going to ruin my life and make me go into a dark, deep hole. You know, like I couldn't trust my gut. So doing that, I was like, wow, it still works. I know what's right for me.
Now, is his name really Dick?
No.
Okay, that's because I'm talking to Brandy's my girlfriend, and and I'm like, his name is Dick. She goes, I don't think it's Dick.
No.
And of course, with me, I'm not that smart. Okay, like I'm not, and so. But it was one of the things when he talked like going to the gym for like 5 hours. And of course, I have always, I'm upstate New York.
Okay.
So I've always used self-deprecating humor.
Yes, same.
And I've always used humor to mask like a painful situation to try to change it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we just moved into a new house. I'm putting a rack together, and we're listening to your podcast episode, and I go, 5 hours? That's called leg day. Well, how dare you?
Yeah.
And she's like, thank you, because she knows I'm nuts, and she's just laughing.
Yeah.
And it was the fact. I mean, we can get into it. Is obviously all of it that this guy was just like you were steamrolled.
Yeah.
But it was quiet at first, to the point where you were kind of looking internally to go, because I heard a lot of justification by you.
Definitely.
Right?
That's what I was doing in the moment. Everything that would appear to be a red flag to somebody else because they're not actively being manipulated was to me something that maybe he deserved grace for. Or he does this because of this. And because he trusts me and tells me these things about his family, about his past, whatever it is, I automatically made the justification for myself or for him, mostly for him, excuses, but yeah.
You had me, one of the other points you had me is when he met your grandfather, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm listening because I literally last week drove my girlfriend, her 15-year-old daughter, their dog and their cat from Tampa up to northern Georgia, and I met her 92-year-old grandmother.
Yeah.
Who is Norma, who is on Facebook and comments on all my stuff. And I'm like,
yeah, so sweet.
You know, it's just, I heard that. I'm like, motherfucker. Like, it was a lot.
Yeah. I have very loving male role models in my family. Like, I think on Father's Day this year, I was like, thanks for not giving me a daddy complex, Dad. Because, like, they're amazing, and they're very masculine. They're very protecting. My grandpa, he just passed away. Like, God bless him. He was 91.
Awesome life. Awesome life.
Just, and I got to spend like the last like 2 to 3 months with him because, you know, for whatever reason, God put me back in Illinois. And so that was really fantastic. I have like his little bracelet that has his name on it. I have his wedding ring. Like, I'm the first grandchild, so I got most of the stuff that means the most to me because I'm super sentimental, obviously. But when Dick met my dad, that was a really important moment for me because I had been married in the past. My dad fucking hated that guy, like hated him. My dad loved Dick, and he saw the way that he like treated me, and he was like, that's how someone should treat my daughter. And then when my grandpa got to meet him, and we come from a very like musical family, instruments, singing, all of the stuff. Dick can play instruments and he can sing, and they all sang together in my living room. And so like standing back and like watching that, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I feel good about this. But it was all smoke and mirrors. How
long was it when the first red flag came up to when you were like, I'm out of here? Years?
The first red flag was probably on our first date. And there was never a time that I was like, I'm out of here. He abandoned me 9 or 10 times. And then the last time just never came back. I was so heavily manipulated by, I don't know, like a month after our marriage that, you know, my friends would be like, you must have thought of leaving him after he did that, right? Truthfully, I never, ever wanted to leave him or thought about leaving him because I'm like a ride or die. And I was like, and even when it's hurting me, and that's my cross to bear.
And you're a ride or die with no daddy issues.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And again, if I'm stepping over, tell me.
No, I'll
right?
tell you. Yeah.
Any past abuse?
No.
Psychological, anything?
No, not really. Not anything that I.
That's a no.
Yeah, no.
Anyone I ask that to, like, they'll be like, yep, this, and this. You know.
No, I mean, I come from a broken home. But I mean, like, who doesn't, I guess, like these days? But no, nothing that really I went to therapy for and like spent a lot of time, nothing like that.
And what were some of the, just now looking back, like the top things that Dick did that you were like, oh my God.
There's so many. On our first or second date, he told me that he was a felon and explained the scenario to me in a way that made it seem like he was entrapped. And because I really hadn't had much experience with people with records of that magnitude, I didn't really like know what to think of it, I guess.
Martha Stewart felon or Suge Knight felon?
Violent felon.
It's a Suge Knight felon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He was arrested for strangling an ex. I know that sounds crazy because you're like, how could he twist that in a way that would make you feel comfortable to continue on with this person? But the things that he told me about her working at the police station and her mother working, at the police station and all of these things and the way he showed his hands and whatever, it's like, oh, okay, well, the person that's standing in front of me hasn't displayed any violent nature tendencies. I mean, he was Mormon. We were going to church, not just on Sundays. We were doing family home evening.
Monday nights.
We were doing, whatever the activity at the church was midweek. I'm like, not like, when would you have time to strangle me? Because that could happen whenever. But this person was like an outwardly loving, caring, affectionate, kind of stare at you with like these like doe eyes. Like, oh, I'm just so happy. know?
When stuff started to unravel or red flags came up, did you go to your bishop about it? Or anybody at the church?
I talked to a few people at the church, but it wasn't until after we were married. I don't believe that I didn't really feel comfortable at that church, actually. It was, I felt accepted and I felt like they wanted me to feel comfortable, but I'm not going to lie, like being Italian and from Chicago and just who I am, I really had a hard time even speaking in church because I was scared like fuck would come out. Just how I speak, I was afraid to, so I didn't really that much.
Were you raised Catholic?
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, I just remember a feeling like I can't talk. I'm going to say something and it's going to be like bad. Even if I said like, oh yeah, we went to see, Diplo, I'm like, they're going to associate that with doing drugs and then he's going to get in trouble. And so I'm like, I'm just not going to say anything.
Mormon for 13 years.
Okay.
So went through the temple, was sealed to my ex-wife, the whole thing, right? And so know all about it.
Yeah.
Wore garments for 12 years.
Wow.
The hardest thing was coffee. I gave up coffee for like 9 years. That was the hardest thing.
Oh my gosh.
Gave up booze for 12 years.
Yeah.
No problem with it, but coffee was the worst. Whole other conversation. It is something with the church. And again, my ex is from northern Utah, and we were sealed in St. George, Utah church. And so there's like Utah Mormons, and then there's like Mormons everywhere else, and that's a whole other conversation. But there is a sense of they get involved into everything, good or bad. Again, I have friends to this day that are members of the Mormon church. Love them. Love them. One of my really good buddies is a bishop in St. George, Utah, Carson McKim. I fucking love him.
Yeah.
Went to Metallica together years ago.
Love it.
Right? Love him. But there's also people there that just like, I had a big problem with the fact that if you're a young girl, you're going in and talking to the bishop about and masturbation could come up as a topic.
Totally, yeah.
Right? And you're talking to a man, and this is your daughter or stepdaughter or whatever. And I'm like, what? So that was like big red flag. Stuff like that's changed since I was a member of the church, but I was like, whoa. But I was just curious. The reason why I ask you is because they get so involved in everything. We had somebody steal from us, a babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
I caught her on a camera. I was so good. I'm like, don't fuck with the Fargos. And had her caught. And we ended up, I brought her and her mom and dad, and I showed them in 4K, not to shame her, but to go, you stole from us. We thought you were. You stole from us. Now how are you going to make it better?
Right.
I went to the bishop about it, and the bishop ended up, we got paid back. But could have gone to the police and could have fucked up this girl's life forever. She was 15 years old.
Yeah.
Didn't want to do that. We make mistakes.
Right.
I get it. But I'm just curious about, did you leverage, like, by the way, did you convert, or you were just?
I did.
So you did convert. Baptized?
Baptized.
Okay. So you were.
He baptized me, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Temple?
No.
Temple recommend?
No.
Okay.
We were unworthy.
Of course. Well,
We actually, the thing was that we went to a YSA, young single adults, and we were living together like basically the whole time. And I don't know if it was because our records had the same address on them or just because we were always together, but everyone knew. And I remember, it was probably like 6 months into our relationship, the bishop calling us in and being like, listen, so we know you're living together. And we're as a couple, we were very like larger than life at the church, like very loud suits and dresses, and we matched. And, like I enjoyed that part of it because it was very much like a we us thing. And I like getting dressed up. So did he. And our bishop was like, people look up to you here. And you are not setting a good example by living together. In fact, you're living in sin because we know what comes along with living together. That means that you're sleeping together. That means this, this, and this. So I need you guys to pick a wedding date right now. And I had no idea. I think maybe he wrote an email to us kind of alluding to all of this. So we knew a little bit that we were like kind of in trouble when we got there. But that day we picked our wedding date. And he like off of the top of his head, he's like June 21st. And here's me, I pull out my phone and I'm like, that's a fucking Tuesday. Like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, it's summer solstice. It's the brightest, longest day of the year and you light up my life.
Oh, he's like, good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Uh-huh.
Like I'm in sales. That's good.
Right.
Summer solstice.
It's fucking
Fuck,
crazy.
Dick.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go, Dick. Okay.
So yeah.
Brightest, longest. Oh my God. It tied it back to you. Wow. Okay. What did he do for a living, by the way?
Sales.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Shocker.
he was, he did all of like the MLM stuff. And then he did Family First Life, selling insurance to pour on, like food stamps, old people. Just, he's a fast money guy. So he's also a degenerate gambler.
Yeah. I listened.
Oof.
Yeah.
Just anything that can get him money in his pocket within an hour, he's like, sign me the fuck up.
Again, and the whole Mormon thing is like, I've been there.
Yeah.
Right? Been there in spades. And again, I preface all this by saying, I have good friends that are Mormon.
I have so many friends still from the YSA.
As with any other religion, there's good and bad to everything. Yeah. There's good and bad Catholics, Protestants, Lutherans, Muslims, whatever. But having been, how long were you in the church, in the Mormon church for? Active? I
got baptized September 11th of 2021. And then I never, I don't know, what do I need to renounce it? I just never went back.
If you ever wanted to, what you end up doing, I haven't done it, is you have to write a letter to Salt Lake City, to the first presidency or something like that, to say that you want to be removed from the records.
Gotcha.
Is what you do. Because I moved, I left my wife and moved out and went into another ward, but no one ever got a hold of me. They left me alone, which was a blessing. At first I was like, how come no one's reaching out to be like, help me move? What's going on?
Yeah.
But it was a blessing. I'm cool with it. Like I said, I still have friends here in Vegas that are Mormon. Love them. Love them. If I see
funny
them,
that you say that, actually. Help me move. That was something that I did not understand about the Mormon religion. Everyone helps everyone do everything. And Dick, he exploited the fuck out of that. He never had any money. So anytime we needed to move big, gigantic pieces of furniture, he'd be like, we'll call the missionaries. We'll call, the people, we're going to put a Facebook post out. And he would use and abuse it. And I was like, this is just not right. But in other religions, like I've been Catholic my whole life. I've never had anybody be like, are you moving? Okay, we're going to send people over.
Elders Quorum.
Yeah.
Did it?
Never.
That's what it's the one skill I said to Brandy. I helped her, I did her pod in Tampa. And I'm like, but she's like, that's impressive. And she calls me Jeffrey Mark Fargo, especially. And she has a Southern accent. I'm just like, oh my God.
That's so cute.
It really turns me on. Like,
Yeah,
oh my
I love
God,
Southern accents.
she's from Northern Georgia. Her family's from Appalachia. Like she's deep Southern accent. And Jeffrey Mark Fargo, and like, I learned it from being Mormon for 13 years because you're helping so many people.
Yeah.
You're loading up U-Hauls.
Spatial recognition.
And you're just, you can kind of see where what has to get fit and put this over there. But it's something that, like, when we had kids and compassionate care, like, you don't make any meals. People are just showing up with like amazing food. Like Mormons cook.
Right.
You think Catholic, by the way, raised upstate New York, all my friends Roman Catholic.
Yep.
All of them. Like,
where in upstate New York?
Canandaigua, south of Rochester, Finger Lakes, Western Finger Lakes region.
Okay, I feel like the most north I've been is like Altamont. Schenectady.
Yeah, Schenectady Capital District.
Okay.
It's like Albany area. Go 2 hours west, and that's like Syracuse, then Rochester.
Yeah.
You turn left at Rochester, go like 45 minutes, and my hometown is a 17-mile long lake. It's gorgeous.
You don't sound like the Rochester.
The twang?
Yeah.
Lost
like,
it. Yeah. Thank you.
Again, you don't have that.
Love y'all. It's funny because a lot of times when the weather is better, I wear hoodies of all my buddies that have like bars and restaurants back in Canandaigua.
Yeah.
I wear their stuff on the podcast.
Yeah.
Or T-shirts I'll wear. And I lost that. I left in 2005. I moved to St. George.
Yeah.
And so I had it, but lost it because of just immersion. And lost that twang.
Yeah.
Like, the
hard A's.
The hard A's, dude.
Yeah.
The fucking hard A's. But was raised there, and like one of my best friends, John Grosso, and he's from Palermo, Sicily, owns Casa Italiana, the best south of the boot, owns Casa Italiana, the best Italian deli in the planet. I am the godfather of his son, Gianni.
Amazing.
So it's like and dated Italian girls growing up.
Yeah.
Like that's all I dated. Yeah. And I'm a waspy, like I'm a poster child for a fucking Klan rally. I mean, look at me, Jesus. And so it's funny that you come from this Catholic upbringing, a lot of guilt in Catholicism.
Yes.
I personally feel that, again, my dad's Jewish, so I'm aware of like a little bit aware of the Jew, a little more of the Catholic, but the Mormon, yes. Mormon guilt is up there.
Yeah, it hurts.
Because they're so woven in to what you're doing where they help you move. If you have a baby or have some type of medical thing, they will come and feed you. They will come and give blessings to you. The elders will come and lay hands. I was one of them.
Yep.
And lay hands. And like, I still think of it, today's the first day of school. I took my son, Jack is at 3rd grade. And I take him and I'm crying, like I'm a crier when it comes to my kids, right? But like, I remember when I was married, I would give each one of the kids a blessing, before school. And I still remember that. And it's like, that stuff you never forget. There was some amazing stuff about the Mormon church. There's also some stuff that I just had fundamental differences with. I left in January of 2020 when COVID was just starting to rip.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother, we'll talk about that on your podcast sometime. Because, shit. But I'm just curious really about, you're going through some really tough stuff, right? And did you try to leverage, and that's a bad word to say, but to leverage relationships at the church through Relief Society or the bishopric or anything there to go, hey, y'all, I'm going through some stuff here. It doesn't feel right. Can you help me?
I didn't, only because I kind of knew. So right after I got baptized, it was like a switch flipped with him, and he was no longer taking us to family home evening, midweek church. We would sometimes miss on Sundays. It was kind of like a check mark that he checked the box. And then all of his true colors started to show, because things really started to get really bad with him after September 11th. So I was aware of past indiscretions, I guess you could say, for him, the fact that he had been an escort for men. had sexual relations with men, like all of these things that, hey, totally okay if that's what you want to do, but don't come off as this God-fearing Mormon who only believes in, heterosexual marriage and is actually outwardly homophobic, like all of these things. So I felt like I had to keep his secret, actually, because I thought that the church was unaware that he had been that person in the past. And so I was like, this is my person. Like, we're going to get married. I want to make sure that we're putting on like a solid, like united front. And so I really didn't confide in really anybody about it because I was just trying to be strong for us.
Was the Mormon church aware of your ex-husband or husband at the time being a homosexual?
Yeah. When they asked me to pick a wedding date, they were aware. He was actually, when we met, he was on whatever kind of probation doesn't allow you to take sacrament. So like, I'm going, everyone's taking sacrament. He goes, you can take sacrament. You're not going to? Like, you brought me here. And he's like, no, I'm going to sit out. Never told me why. It wasn't until after we got married, we moved to, I don't know, like Anthem, Arizona, that I found a piece of paper that was just basically like all of the things that he couldn't do, signed by like the bishop and, had been sent up to Salt Lake. And he had been on like probation basically the whole entire time that he was like courting me. And it really felt, that was a part of the Mormon experience for me that I don't feel still okay with, because as like a legal person, went to law school, have an MLS, I'm very like morally just. And like my ethic meter is like just off the charts. So also, I think of this word always like being a fiduciary to someone. Religious leaders have a fiduciary responsibility to members of their congregation to point them in the direction that is best for them. That's why they're appointed as leaders. Why was every single person that was a quote unquote religious leader that had direct access to me telling me to marry this person that was on probation, that knowingly and admittedly had homosexual relations, did it for money, stole things from other people? Like, why?
And they never, ever told you?
No, never. Never.
And it's more than one person, because people are going to watch this, right? And they're going to go, well, it was probably just a bishop that was bad. But this is more than one person that had eyes on this.
Yeah. It was,
like,
yes.
There's several people that usually in that type of situation that like he gets brought into either members of the bishopric or high council. And if y'all want to know what that is, fucking ChatGPT. Don't use Google. ChatGPT.
We knew like our stake president on a name-by-name basis. That's a person who would know, right? Because our bishop, they have to, report to that person. On Sundays, all of the men and women who would sit up on, like the stage thing, all of them knew, and they all had my phone number. They all had me on Facebook. They all had me on everything. And, when everything blew up, my first thing was like, God, he's going to continue for the rest of his life to use this Mormon, I'm a Mormon, man, blah, 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 as the front, the facade to like get in with women, because it is so like endearing in like this white picket fence life, if that's what you want. And I'm like, I have to take that away from him because he doesn't deserve it. And other people don't deserve what I got. So I called my Relief Society president, who's a wonderful woman. She actually had no idea. But she's a woman. So why would she get information that is about men, right? Like, she told me that she was going to like pass everything that I shared with her, because she was like, oh my gosh, Amanda, I cannot believe this shit that you're telling me. She's like, I'm going to have to talk to the bishop, which it was a new bishop at that point, and we're going to see what we can do. So they talked. Someone called Salt Lake, and Salt Lake basically was like, we can't have him like excommunicated unless there is a police report. And I'm like, he is a felon. Everything he does, like, it doesn't leave bruises. Like, in my soul, yeah, in my brain and my neural pathways, but like you can't see those, so I can't make police reports about his emotional and narcissistic abuse, you know? So the church has they've never done anything.
I guarantee you that at least 3 to 7 people knew. The bishop, first counselor, second counselor, stake presidency, advisor to stake presidency, high council. There's several. The Mormon Church is all about layers and all about it's very organized. That's why they're
totally
their big logo, like the thing at the whenever they have the thing up, and it's twice a year up in Salt Lake, is
General Council.
General Council is a honeybee or a beehive from Hinckley. I think was the one that had that thing built, and it's because bees just work so efficiently, and there's a hierarchy and do the whole thing, and it's like watching when you see like when you go to state conference and how the chairs are all broken down within like 5 minutes, 1,000 chairs, done.
Yeah,
like all that shit. The organization's unbelievable.
Yeah,
unbelievable
really
with the Mormon Church. My hat is off to them for that. However, it's fundamentally set up for women are not in any type of a hierarchical role at all, as much as they can say it's not. It's true. I left because of the role of women they're substandard. They're subservient. The role of women are subservient in the Mormon Church, is my opinion. The role that they gave to anyone who's homosexual. That you're not accepted as an equal, and then twins, a guy that was a member and not member. Ensign Capital is the money market fund that runs all the stuff for the church. They were big whistleblowers. January of 2020, they came out. Salt Lake Tribune did a whole thing about how the church was taking billions, and funding like City Center across the street from Temple Square in Salt Lake City. When it wasn't doing well, they were putting money into that and kind of doing like mezzanine financing and funding other stuff. And I'm like, wait a minute, I thought that we like put that money. I was full tithe payer, 10%, good with that, proud of that.
Right.
But I'm like, aren't we taking care of typhoon victims or hurricane people or famine, which they are, but there's another layer that people didn't know about.
Right.
And so
which is a lie.
I had a big problem with that, and so I walked away.
Omission of anything is a lie, especially when there's contribution, especially like money. Like that's crazy to me. And you're right. The Mormon Church is one of the best run businesses in the world. And I think one of the things you said too about women subservient, I believe that the Relief Society is the largest female organization or association run by a man. Like,
who's 100 years old.
It's so crazy.
100 years old, Amanda.
I know.
And I'm just like, what?
I know. It blows my mind.
And I mean, they own all of their land is owned free and clear globally. Like their real estate holdings are in the billions.
Yes.
Like they have more money put away than Harvard Endowment when the whistleblower stuff came out. Now, and again, this was 4 years ago. So it's even more than that now. Okay. And again, I'll say it again because I will get ripped to shreds by people when this gets clipped up that I'm anti-Mormon. I'm not anti-Mormon. I'm pro-fairness.
Yeah.
And I come from a strong position because I was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for 13 years.
Right.
And there's still some residual stuff there that'll always be there. And I'm a big fan of therapy too, but it's like, oh.
I mean, it's very deeply rooted, especially if you've been a part of it for so long, in who you are. I believe stuff like that does get into your DNA and it gets passed down. There's, whether it's trauma or it's positive things. Like you said, your son's first day of school is today. The blessing, right? You're always going to associate those types of things with those type of positive memories and moments because they live in like the fibers of who we are. So, yeah, I mean, I got anointed one time when I was sick. I was like, what do you mean someone's coming over to put oil on my head?
Yeah.
It was sweet though. It was so, I'm like, that's so nice that it's Sunday night and like someone's just going to drive all the way up to Anthem, Arizona and just because I'm sick? Well, yeah, that's what we do. And it was so confusing because it's like 2 days later he would run away and spend a week with a sugar daddy in Hawaii. And I'm like, God, this is so fucked up.
How do you justify, again, my ADHD, so I'm like, you say something, and I'm
same.
like immediately, okay,
No, go
great.
back and forth. Yeah.
We can share Adderall.
Yeah.
I fucking love it.
Yeah, right.
He goes away with a sugar daddy to Hawaii for 2 days, or whatever. Are you married at this point in time?
Yeah.
How do you justify that?
He told me, as he told all of his other ex-girlfriends / victims, that it was like non-physical, just companionship. And again, he was very outwardly homophobic. So he would say things where he would be like, God, that's so gay, or like, look at this guy. Like, and so you're like, he would never do that. For me, I was like, I would have to see it to believe it, like, because I probably could make a scenario up in my mind where he was lying and he was being physical, which he was with these people. But for me, I have to see it to believe that it was actually happening. I could never find it. And I am the best of the best investigators. I have 11,000 screenshots and documents for this one season of the podcast of my life, I guess.
And you, with the podcast, it's taken off. Like, you've got an ass load of reviews. Like, it's and almost all of them are like, 5 stars.
Yeah.
I mean, bravo for that. Like, oh my God, I'd kill for half of that. Like, it's so good.
It's been great.
Are the reviews mostly women that are like, thank you, for giving me a voice. Thank you for justifying something that I'm going through right now, and this is helping me on my journey?
They are that. Definitely thank you for making me feel not so alone. Thank you for saying it in the way that you did and making yourself so vulnerable, because it makes me feel less crazy. Like the way that I speak in my podcast, I talk a lot about what's going on in my mind in specific situations. And I think that has helped a lot of women specifically be like, oh, wow, I'm not crazy that my partner doing this leads me down a thought process like this. And I think that was that for me is really what pushed me to continue to do it, because I knew that I was helping people. But also, I have a listener demographic that's kind of unique. I think it's skewed a little bit right now, but I had a lot more men listening than I ever thought possible. Like, I thought that men would listen to it and they would be like, oh God, shut up, bitch, you're just whining, like, quit whining, you have a bad picker. Like, I have men that send me messages that are paragraphs long talking about how, like, they were in abusive relationships with women, but they feel like they can't even talk about it out loud to anyone because it would make them seem less manly, that they got abused in some capacity. I had a man tell me that he, for, I don't know, I think it was like 8 months or so, had been contemplating taking his own life because of a similar situation. And he said, it makes me like emotional. He said that he listened to my podcast, and there were certain parts in my podcast where I had those same feelings. And he said, you being so resilient and sharing the way that you did, and even though it ended up horribly in your favor still in the end, he's like, you're still here. And so I know that I need to still be here. And I was like, wow. So those moments from men are profound to me, because I definitely like expected a negative kind of feedback or tone. I have men that say, shit, I never knew that women think so detailed. Like, everything that you guys do, you've thought about it and how it will affect us first. And so listening to your podcast has made me appreciate my partner, my wife, more for the little things that she does. And I'm like, fucking win there, like, that's amazing. I had a gentleman who reached out to me about sponsorship for a NASCAR company, and I'm like so stoked about this. He said that he was on his way with a bunch of his buddies to like Wisconsin or something from Illinois. Maybe it was further than that. So they had like 3 hours in the car. He turns on my podcast with like 6 men in the van, whatever it is. They listened to my podcast for 3 hours and then like stayed in the parking lot in the vehicle for like 30 more minutes to finish the last episode. And I was like, oh, like, that feels so good, because it's not what I expected, but I know that it's working in some weird way.
For you, it's cathartic to be, behind a microphone and to tell your story. It's an added bonus, and that's an understatement, to receive that type of feedback.
Yeah, they put time into these messages, and every time I read, it's not just like, hey, 5 stars, Amanda rocks. It's they take time out of their day to tell me how it affected them.
You have people that have given detailed, positive affirmations back to you.
Yeah.
And positive reinforcement back to you in listening to your content.
Yeah.
And that is gold in this space. It's gold, because I tell anybody, if you're going to get in this business, you're going to either educate or you're going to entertain. If you're really good, you do a combination of both. It's a hybrid.
That's a good way to put that, because people listen to the Dichotomy Diaries because I think at first they're like, what the fuck happened in her life that she had to do this? And then some people stay because it's like Real Housewives of New Jersey and it's Bravo and it's juicy and they can't wait. Other people stay because they're going through the same thing and they want to learn how to get through it and onto the other side.
And it's so good for you as a podcaster because you're not being typecast into one certain niche.
Right.
You've got a whole bunch of buckets that you can really be throwing balls into.
Right.
Right? In terms of what your content is, who your content is serving.
Yeah, absolutely.
For it to be relatable. Whenever people ask me about how to do this, I love deep sea fishing when I travel. And so I go, you go deep sea fishing, you're going to put 12 lines in the water. Deep, wide, the guys are going to kite and throw that out there. It's the same thing when you're doing a podcast. You really limit yourself if you say, I am this. And you can do that, like true crime. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Right? You better be fucking kicking out a lot of true crime content, a lot. And you're going to do it for a long time on average before something really takes off and then you start building a following.
Right.
If you can do it where you're doing a whole bunch of different stuff and you're talking to people about it's true crime, it's relationships, it is processing trauma.
Yeah, lifestyle.
It is lifestyle.
Right.
It's religion. And you then all of a sudden have wider nets and more lines in the water.
And it's funny that you say that because there are some people who would say, what do they say? Jack of all trades, master of none or something, right? When I was going at the very beginning and putting in the category in Apple, for my podcast page, whatever it was, it's definitely true crime, but it's not murder, right? And so there was a lot of people who would start listening and they were like, where's the murder? Where's the cold case? And I'm like, you realize what true crime, like by definition, it's true? It's a fucking crime. Okay. Yes, that's that. My podcast was on the Apple charts for 5 weeks in true crime. It wasn't in there for relationships, for religion, for all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I definitely am the kind of person that likes to make sure that I describe things correctly. And so I'm never going to just put in one bucket. And also what happens when it's season 2? Maybe there isn't any true crime in it, but there was in season 1. So we're still going to leave it labeled as that because it catches more people.
You're an enigma to me.
I love this word.
Right?
It's my favorite word.
You are an enigma to me because as a podcaster, because you have so much that you are talking about. You are extremely vulnerable with what you're conveying. Most people are not, and that's why they don't make it as a podcaster. But also for you to be able to talk alone for an hour and a half episode is people don't understand how difficult that is, how challenging that is. And for you, it's just effortless. Like I think you can go for 3 or 4 hours.
I probably could. I don't know if I could do it alone that long on video. So all of my solo stuff was before video. And truthfully, like my process was really, we were talking about process, we're so ADD. But like I take a lot of photos And so that was how I wrote a timeline, is that I went back to the very day that I met him, and I just started looking, because I'm visual, through the pictures. And I'm like, oh shit, there's a little breadcrumb I left for myself of a screenshot, and it would be something I'd forgotten about, be a trauma, and I'd put it into an outline. I think the outline for my podcast is like 180 some pages, and that's just an outline. So I would have, okay, we're going to do, episode 17, Cream Pie Confessions. And then I would just like go through these bullet points. I was just kind of like in a chair like this in my bedroom of my mother's house, like smoking my vape, drinking energy drinks up until 5, until the sun came up and the birds would start chirping and I'd have to stop. But I'd be like laying back and just talking. And it was easy for me to do it that way because I wasn't on video, because I didn't have to get ready. You know what I mean? But I think now I have to do my last one, and it's going to be solo and it's going to be on video. And I'm scared about it.
Why?
I don't know. No one has seen me do the solo episodes, which are the ones that they love the most. And I don't want to let people down. I don't know. Or I don't know. I was even scared to do it by myself after my friend Ashley, after she had to stop. She's like, no, you can do it. And I'm like, I don't know if I can.
You're overthinking.
I always this brain is
you're overthinking
constantly
it, my friend.
going.
Yeah, you are 1,000% overthinking it.
Yeah.
You need to just hit record and go.
Yeah.
Jump in the pool. The water's fine. You've earned it.
Yeah.
You've earned that right. Give yourself some grace and do it.
Yeah.
You'll be just fine. I think that as a fellow podcaster, as a peer, the more you do of those, the more personable you get to connect with your audience.
Yeah.
So it's great to have a guest. Don't get me wrong. But if you can be at that level where you're just going and you're looking at the camera and you're having a conversation with that person, that is something that most people cannot do.
Yeah. I've really been putting it off. And I don't know if it's partially because I'm like, oh, season 1 is ending. That's crazy. It's emotional for me because I got it all out there. And my part is the last part, right? But it's also, I'm like, I want to make sure it's perfect. I'm a perfectionist.
The best you can do is perfectly put something out that is imperfect.
Yep.
That's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Like relationships or anything else. You just do your best, and that's it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
You need to just give yourself some grace, my friend, with that one.
I know. I really will do it this week when I get back, because I have everything ready to go. I pre-write my intro and my outro because I love writing, and that's my favorite thing to do. Right. But the middle part is just all me talking. Like, I have to do that. Ugh.
It is something that, I mean, and all of this is not. People think that this is like an easy to do. It's not. It is difficult. However, the best part of doing this, like, ever hear the term "in the pocket"?
Yeah.
Right. So when you're in the pocket with somebody, and when you're just talking, you don't even know the cameras are there, and you're just vibing, and you can go on for hours with somebody. When, not if, when you can attain that, to be in the pocket alone, and you're just talking to the camera, but you're really unburdening yourself, you're educating, you're entertaining, you're doing both all at the same time, then that's like Yoda level fucking podcasting.
And I think that that's what this last one will be. And I think that that's why I'm scared of it, because I know that. And there's part of me that's like, I really want to like set myself up and like give myself an outline, because I want to, and I'm like, no, I didn't do that before.
Fuck yourself, don't do that.
I'm like, please, I can't. It has to be the same.
It's
overthinking. Oh my God.
Amanda, you don't, this is like the dad of me.
Yeah.
You don't need training wheels anymore. You're good. You can get on the bike and ride the fucking bike.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You've earned it. You put the reps in, you've done it. And for you, it's more, yes, your intro and outro. I think it's awesome. You write your stuff. That's great. To do that's awesome. But then turn the fucking camera on and talk and just go. Maybe have some bullet points to refer to if you want, but beyond that, go.
Yeah.
And do that as often as possible. I would recommend that to anybody who's a podcaster, to do more solo stuff. I'm going to start doing more now, of just me coming in here and just putting the camera and me just talking.
But you're nervous about it.
Oh, yeah. But I love that, because that's growth.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. When you feel like you get this feeling in your stomach,
it's
push through it.
It is growth for me. And I think that everyone thinks, I said before, everyone thinks podcasting is easy. Well, if it was, 90% of the people that start a podcast don't go past episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a fact. So, to have done a bunch of episodes, I've done a bunch of episodes, I always want to challenge myself.
Mm-hmm.
I do that now where I'm a lot more picky with who I have come in here to talk because I've earned that right.
Yeah, totally.
More importantly, thank you, by the way.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. You're fucking great. You're fucking great. More importantly, I want to always challenge myself because of my ADHD. I'm always like, okay, what can I do now? And I master this and master that. I'm never going to master this. But I'll give myself the grace to say I'm pretty good at what I do now.
Yeah.
I'm good at replying to comments, good or bad, and how to I don't let them offend me. If they get completely this visceral hatred, I block them. Then you're out. I don't give you a voice. You're gone.
Right.
But that's rare. But now I'm like, I want to start doing more solo content. And so I'm now going to start thinking about what can I talk about? And I'm just going to come in and grab Scott and put one camera across from me and sit down in a fucking accent chair and just riff and go from there with it. It might be looking back at some of my stuff that's gone viral, some of the comments that get made. And what are the comments that the ones that got the most hearts? Because everyone, with what we do when you post your short form stuff, it's all in the clips, man. It's all in the comments. It's all in the comments. And so what are some of the things that were the big, stuff that people like that comment a lot? And I can reply to those comments. I thought that'd be a good one to do. But again, we're on the same journey, but just different areas.
Yeah, totally.
I'm more business shit, and you're more I'd say relationship first, and then 1.5, not 2, is true crime.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to give a voice to people who think that they don't have one, or maybe they think that what has happened to them is just socially okay because there's just so many people that are just like, yeah, that happened to me. Like an aunt of mine. Yeah, I'm like, how the fuck are you my aunt? And I don't know that you had a relationship like the one that I was in. Why? Because during that time, you felt like you couldn't talk about it. Okay, but what about now? Oh, wait, still now we are basically not allowed to talk about the truth because of defamation or, slander, all of these things. Hello, if what you're saying is true, fucking say it. You're not going to get in trouble. Exactly right. I don't have any money. I don't have any resources to be able to fight a defamation lawsuit. Why am I doing this? Because I'm literally telling documentable truths. And that's all I'm saying even for people I'm looking for stories for season 2. And I'm like, if you guys come on my podcast, because everyone's all worried, I can't talk. They're gonna take me to court. Well, is what you're saying true? Because if it is, perfect example is me. There's no defamation lawsuits coming at me. Yeah. He knows it's true. Why isn't he doing his own response podcast? He wants to be famous so much. Because he's stupid.
If you give somebody enough rope, they're going to hang themselves.
Yeah.
Right? And I spoke about Ryan Pineda is a big business. He was a flipper. Now he's just a business coach, like a Grant Cardone kind of guy.
Oh yeah, hold up real quick.
Go ahead.
My ex-husband is one of his clients.
Say no more.
And my money went towards the $7,000 class where they make the reels and they give you hooks and all of that stuff. My money did that. And I was like, I can do that for you, Dick. Please don't pay $7,000 of my money for that. And he didn't believe me. And do you know where his reels sit with 3 likes on them? And look where mine is. And I did it. Yeah. That's bullshit.
It is. I went to and I know Ryan. I used to be in real estate here. I was a title rep for years. And so called in his office to get business. And I've known Ryan for years. And I went with people I work with to one of his, to WealthCon a couple of years ago. Went in, left by lunch. Just didn't learn anything.
Yeah.
Didn't learn anything. That's all I said to a buddy of mine that came in. And that got clipped and got put out. It went nuts. And it was people, a lot of it was same thing happened to me. It's bullshit. But there were people that I know, high-level people in the Pineda organization that came on were like defending him, shit-talking me. I'm like, if you're shit-talking me, well, I'm just a little podcast guy.
Right.
Why are you taking time out of running a multi-million-dollar organization to defend Ryan? And why is it that a week after that clip went viral, Ryan comes out with a 14-minute-long video talking about how to deal with haters online that he released at like 1.7 times speed to make it sound even weirder? Like it was just, the whole thing was weird. When all that, I put it out and the comments started and I kind of replied back. But my big thing when I get hate comments is I'll say, time will tell, opinions vary. Those are my standard responses. I do.
Makes sense.
Or I do a check mark emoji. Or I do the emoji is also a big one. Non-confrontational, I do my thing.
Right.
Somebody reached out to me that's a like, not corporate attorney, but deals with this kind of stuff. And in California, in SoCal, and he said, I will pro bono represent you if anything happens. I'm very well aware of Ryan Pineda and what he does. And if they, I'm like, great. And so then I start going off. And no one, I even DM'd Ryan. I know it's his people see it. I was like, hey man, would love to have you on the podcast sometime to reply to what I said. Nothing.
He never wanted to come in.
So it never wanted to come in.
Local.
But I could pay $15,000 to go on his podcast if I wanted to. Right.
Yeah.
So it's just, so what you're doing is, it's the same thing. And people need to understand this. The worst thing you could do is be quiet.
Yes.
Especially if you know you're right.
Yes.
Because we live in a society, it's still there. And again, I'm not throwing shade on it, but it started with Me Too. And that now everyone's afraid to talk because you're afraid to get canceled.
I know.
I'm 54. I give a frog's fuck if you cancel me.
Right.
And I've said some inappropriate shit on here, but I don't do it from a place of hatred or throwing shade or being mean to somebody. I have ADHD with no filter and I'm 54.
Same.
Right? Like I just don't care. And so if somebody is holding back from speaking on your podcast, the worst person they're hurting is themselves. Because it feels so good to just,
It does. Just like word vomit. Just get it all out. Again, back to like the moral, compass and ethical code that I have. I don't know where the fuck I got it from, but with the Ryan thing, my one question that I always came back to with my ex-husband was like, what are you selling? What are you selling? Because you're making all of these like reels and all of these things. There's nothing at the end of it that says, hey, download my ebook or this. I'm like, why are they taking your money without the first fucking question being, what is your value offer? And I'm not a marketing educator. I went to school for tourism management and HR and employment law. Like this is just literally what like comes, like it's common sense to me, but maybe not to everybody, obviously. But what are you selling? You're going to sell workout plans your whole life? Because you hate that, Dick. I don't know. I always told him that if he would just come clean with all of who he is, the things that he has done bad to people, like that would be a best-selling book. So I'm sure it would be a great podcast. He has a super annoying, like lispy voice, but he could write a book. Be great. But he can't because he can't confront the shame. His ego is too big. And there are more people he thinks that value him for the facade than who is really like in here.
And you mentioned other women have come forward that he has had contact with?
Oh, yeah. Like, so he's from here. He's from Las Vegas, born and raised. I interview on the podcast 6, going to be 7 of his exes, ex-girlfriends, ex-fiancés, ex-wives. 4 of them are from Las Vegas, actively live here. People that are well-known on social media. People that if, you saw their face and their handles, you'd be like, oh, no shit, this guy got her too. And all of us have a lot of things in common, but we're all very different. But empathetic, forgiver, lover. Yeah.
What was his biggest, for lack of a better term, skill in getting women? Because this is a gay guy who is trying to, I guess, avoid his gayness
Yeah.
in being with women, but is also addicted to gambling.
Yes.
So addictive personality, other stuff going on. Again, narcissism is a word that gets thrown around a lot these days.
Much,
right?
too much.
Way
yeah.
too much.
Yeah.
And like I was called a narcissist by my ex-wife. My therapist was like, "No, you're not a narcissist, Jeff." And
everybody is a little bit narcissistic. It's a personality trait, right? It's like, it comes from the Greek mythology, Narcissus, right? But so we can all be a little narcissistic without having narcissistic personality disorder, which is extremely fucking rare. Like my therapist, who I've been going to for 11 years, has not once ever had someone sit in her office that had NPD, like by the DSM-5 definition, right? It gets confused with being like antisocial personality disorder or sociopath, and then also like psychopath. And my ex-husband was court-ordered to get a psych eval. That came out NPD, super rare. So I still don't like to label him as things because I think that that's not my place. I know what I know, but as far as like his sexuality, right? I actually believe that he's like any sexual. Like I think he's addicted to money. I think that he is attracted to money. So if being with a woman means that will make him financially like set, he'll be with a woman. If it's being with a man, he'll be with a man. If it was being with a fucking animal, I'm sure he would do it. He gets turned on by the thought of potentially having money. Because this is one of the things that I always go back and forth with the listeners about. It's like, I have many gay males in my family, like very close. So I've been around them and their husbands. None of them could like have sex with a woman 3 to 4 times a day, every day for 3 years. And consistently in all of the stories of mine and his past victims, the sex life was great. So that is one of the things that's like, gay guys, like, they don't get turned on by women. So what do you do with that? Like, what do you make of that? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Is he an adrenaline junkie?
I would say, yeah.
Maybe there was, again, I'm not a doctor, but maybe there was some type of a high he would get off of masking the fact that he's homosexual, acting in a heterosexual way. He's like pulling one over on you. Yeah. And he gets to like release sexually, which is also, a biggie, right? To orgasm. And, 9 times out of 10 probably wasn't thinking of you.
Yeah, the truth. Right? He's probably thinking of himself, honestly, which is the craziest thing.
Which all depends on like positions and everything else. Like, was he looking at you? Like
but it really was to me. So I prescribe to a very sex to me is not transactional. It's a tantric experience. It's a soul exchange of energy, kind of all of that. That's how it should be, I believe. For me, it was that. And so that's what always like fucking threw me, because I was like, there's no way he's gay. Like, he's looking into my eyes every time. Like, how?
But it's not you, it's him.
It's fucking wild. Yeah. That whole piece has been seriously across the board, from like episode, maybe even the trailers where I like release a conversation that I recorded where people can hear his voice and he has a lisp. And they're like, how did you not know he was gay from that? I'm like, y'all are crazy for saying that. That is so not okay. But still that's the girl with the podcast who married the gay Mormon. Okay, whatever.
That's the podcast where the girl that married the gay Mormon.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
thanks for my elevator speech.
Dichotomy Diaries goes off the tongue a little bit better, but okay.
Yep.
It's just, okay. How long has it been now since you and Dick have parted ways to today? How long has it been?
Physically or legally?
Both. So
physically, he left 2 EDCs ago, right before EDC. That's just the only way that I'm not good with time.
2 EDCs ago?
Yeah.
That's hysterical. Okay.
He bought us tickets to go and we were supposed to go on like the helicopter thing. I don't know. I've only been one time. And he abandoned me at my father's house. We were living there because we got evicted. Everyone has to just listen. And so we were living at my dad's. He abandoned me there and took another woman, also a local, a horrible one, by the way. And then I never saw him again after that. Maybe there was a moment that he came back to try and get his stuff, but it wasn't like we were reconciling. It was he's still coming back to Las Vegas. I found out that he filed for divorce, I want to say August, September of 2023. And I found out not because he served me, but because he posted a story on Instagram of himself smiling at the camera like this, saying that he was going to fulfill all of his obligations, that he had filed for divorce from me, and that he is going to be an upstanding, handsome member of society from now on, like verbatim. He never served me because he didn't know he had to, which shows you like the mental capacity. And then I challenged like his filing and asked for a trial because I had all of these documentations that he made significantly more money than he claimed. And then we got divorced literally on my birthday, so February 8th of this year. And that was the last time that was the second to last time that I physically saw him, was me sitting in the courtroom in Clark County by myself, representing myself on my birthday for my divorce.
I want to go back to a second. You mentioned he abandoned you at your dad's house where you were living because you were evicted from your place, and he took another woman to EDC, and it was horrible. Was she horrible? Was it the experience that she had with him horrible?
So she's horrible. It's my personal opinion. You listened to episode 17, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That episode is the one that's her. Just out there, she cyber harassed and stalked and defamed me on the internet. And it doesn't make any sense because she was like sleeping with my husband. Like I was like bullied on the internet for trying to find out where my husband was after he like disappeared for 3 weeks after EDC. Like the woman is just vile. But yeah, the experience was horrible too. I mean, all of that. Imagine like your husband like walking, you're at your dad's house, right? I mean, like I said, I love my dad. He'll do anything for me. He's got fuck ton of guns in that house. And I had to be like, no, dad, stay in the house. Everything's fine. And inside I'm like crumbling with bare feet, running down the driveway, trying to make my husband not leave. It's like, it's terrible, but it made me stronger, I guess.
Final question.
Yes.
Are you dating?
I wasn't. And then someone fell out of heaven from Louisiana into my lap. You remember you were talking about the Southern accent? There is no thicker Southern accent than Louisiana. Holy shit. So I guess, again, I'm not dating. I'm dating somebody exclusively. And it's fantastic.
Good for you.
I'm so happy.
Good for you.
And he's smarter than me, which I think was like, I always dated men who weren't as smart as me, and they liked me because they were like, she's so smart. But then they would hate me for it and start and be mean. And it is this whole notion of, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I thought about that from like a business and life perspective, but never from a dating perspective. And so now I have this man who is truly like Mensa level, like intelligence. And it's amazing. I learn new things from him every single day.
There's nothing sexier than somebody with a big brain.
Yeah.
Because someone with a big brain has a greater sense of their own inadequacies. Mm-hmm. And they have a greater sense of the things that challenge them. And they're comfortable with that.
So comfortable.
They're okay with that.
Yeah.
Where someone that's not as intelligent will react in more of a combative mindset, where it's not me, it's you. Fuck you.
Victim.
Yeah, victim. How dare you? And that's where I always and that's why I love Brandy is she's smart as shit. And she's fucking gorgeous, but she's also incredibly just intuitively smart.
Yeah.
How she'll look at stuff that I can't even fathom. And I'm honored that she finds me attractive. What the fuck?
I know when he says that I'm smart or calls out something, it truly means something because I'm like, you're a genius. And it just fills my cup in a way that it has never really been filled before. So I love it.
How do you negotiate the long distance thing? I did it for 1.5 years, so I know all about it.
He's just from there. We live in the same state.
Oh,
we
right
live
on.
in
So you're
Illinois.
good.
Yeah, we're good. I probably see him every 2 days, which is fantastic. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm happy.
You're healing.
I am. Which is I'll never be healed. I don't know. Nobody will be healed. I think that's important to note. But you have to start.
I agree. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
This has been fun.
It has been. I could talk with you for 4 more hours.
I know. It's nice, right?
Yeah, it's good.
It is something that I, knock on wood, that's what I try to do every time with people of different backgrounds, shapes, colors, ethnicities, sexual orientation, don't care.
Right.
But if you're going to sit here and be in the pocket with somebody for an hour-ish, I get goosebumps about it. It just feels good.
You know.
And it's nice. You will be, because at the end, shameless plug for you, for Dichotomy Diaries, you'll be tagged in everything.
Okay.
Whatever I post, clips, long form, whatever, you'll be as a collaborator. So all y'all want to really dive into Amanda's story, I highly recommend you subscribe and get in there and just listen and get off everything else and just focus on what she has to say.
Thank you so much.
That's it, my friend. Thank you.
I appreciate it.